Hello friends, in the lecture series on Michel Foucault, this is the introductory video. Let's start. Full name is Paul Michel Foucault. He was born in 15th October 1926, Poitiers, France. He died on 25 June in 1984, Paris, France. He was French philosopher, historian of ideas, social theorist, and literary critic. Foucault's theories primarily address the relationship between power and knowledge and how they are used as a form of social control through societal institutions. He was classified by the popular press as a member of the structuralist gang of the Four, along with Claude Lévi-Strauss, Jacques Lacan, and Roland Barthes. Though often cited as structuralist, a post-structuralist, and postmodernist, Foucault rejected all these labels. His thought has influenced academics, especially those working in communication studies, anthropology, sociology, cultural studies, philosophy, history, literary theory, law, medical and social sciences, psychology, physiology, criminology, feminism, and literary theory. He developed an interest in philosophy and came under the influence of his tutor J. Hippolyte and Louis Althusser, and at the University of Paris, Sorbonne, where he earned degrees in philosophy and psychology. Now I should discuss the context of Foucault's writings. Enlightenment concepts of progress being challenged in the mid 20th century. World War II, the Holocaust in Germany, challenging the idea that Foucault was civilized. Capitalism itself had been challenged by the Soviet Union and China. By 1960s, deindustrialization in Europe and the decline of factory within capitalism was leading to a rethinking of Marxian theory. This context led to Foucault's desire to rethink what was seen as normative within society as well as the way power operated. Now, the Age of Enlightenment. Here we find the philosophical movement that took over the 18th century related to the rise of scientific thinking. Descartes announced, I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum. Now we should know some facts related to Foucault's life. Foucault was born to an upper middle class family in Poitiers, France. Foucault revealed very little about his childhood, describing himself as a juvenile delinquent. His father, Paul Foucault, was a surgeon, and his mother was the daughter of a surgeon. He was the second of three children of a middle class family with an older sister and younger brother. In 1945, Foucault went to Paris, where he enrolled in one of the country's most prestigious secondary schools, which was also known as the Lycée Henri IV. In 1946, he was admitted to the École Normale Supérieure as the fourth highest rank student. Here he studied under the philosopher J. Hippolyte, an existentialist and expert on the work of 19th century German philosopher George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. That means Hippolyte was a scholar on the German philosopher George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Hippolyte had developed himself to uniting existentialist theories with the dialectical theories of Hegel and Karl Marx. These ideas influenced Foucault, who adopted Hippolyte's conviction that philosophy must develop through a study of history. Althusser, steeped in the Marxist intellectual and political traditions, convinced his students to join the French Communist Party. But Foucault's experience of homophobia and incidences of anti Semitism within it turned him off. Foucault also rejected the class-centric focus of Marxist theories and never identified as a Marxist. École Normale Supérieure and University of Paris. Here he spent from 1946 to 1951. In autumn 1946, Foucault was admitted to the École Normale Supérieure. Like most of his classmates, he remained largely unpopular, spending much time alone, reading voraciously. His fellow students noted his love of violence and the macabre. He decorated his bedroom with images of torture and war drawn during the Napoleonic Wars by Spanish artist François Goya, and on one occasion seized a classmate with a dagger. Prone to self-harm in 1948, Foucault allegedly attempted suicide. His father sent him to see the psychiatrist Jean Delay. Obsessed with the idea of self-mutilation and suicide, Foucault attempted the latter several times in ensuing years, praising suicide in later writings. The ENSS doctor examined Foucault's state of mind, suggesting that his suicidal tendencies emerged from the distress surrounding his homosexuality. Because same-sex sexual activity was socially taboo in France. At the time, Foucault engaged in homosexual activity with men whom he encountered in the underground Parisian gay scene, also indulging in drug use. According to biographer James Miller, he enjoyed the thrill and sense of danger that these activities offered him. He completed his studies at the ENS, that means École Normale Supérieure, in 1951, and then began a doctorate in the philosophy of psychology. Foucault remained the member of France's Communist Party from 1950 to 1953. He left the Communist Party because he was sad about all the people that Stalin was killing in the Soviet Union. Foucault soon gravitated towards philosophy, reading not only Hegel and Marx but also Immanuel Kant, Edmund Husserl, and most significantly Martin Heidegger. He began reading the publications of philosopher Gaston Bachelard, taking a particular interest in his work exploring the history of science. Embracing the Parisian avant-garde, Foucault entered into a romantic relationship with the surrealist composer Jean Barrique. Together, they tried to produce their greatest work, heavily used recreational drugs, and engaged in sadomasochist sexual activity. In August 1953, Foucault and Baroque holidayed in Italy, where the philosopher immersed himself in Untimely Meditations, 1873 to 76. This Untimely Meditations is a set of 4 essays by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Later, he describes Nietzsche's work as a revelation. He felt that reading the book deeply affected him, especially the second essay, The Use and Abuse of History for Life, published in 1874, being a watershed moment in his life. Foucault subsequently experienced another groundbreaking self-revelation when watching a Parisian performance of Samuel Beckett's new play Waiting for Godot in 1953. The couple took a mutual interest in the work of such authors as the Marquis de Sade, Fyodor Dostoevsky, Franz Kafka, and G. Janet, all of whose works explored the themes of sex and violence. In 1954, Foucault published his first book, Mental Illness and Personality. In French, Maladie mentale et personnalité, in which he exhibited his influence from both Marxist and Heideggerian thought, covering a wide range of subject matter from the reflex psychology of Pavlov to the classical psychoanalysis of Sigmund Freud. Referencing the work of sociologists and anthropologists such as Emile Durkheim and Margaret Mead, he presented his theory that illness was actually relative. Foucault held teaching positions from 1954 to 1958, teaching French at the universities of Uppsala, Warsaw, and Hamburg. He received his doctorate in 1959 under the supervision of Georges Cangelam. His doctoral thesis was published 2 years later with the title Madness and Unreason, A History of Madness in the Classical Age, or Madness and Insanity, History of Madness in the Classical Age. In 1961, during on the work of Durkheim and Margaret Mead, he argued that madness was a social construct that originated in medical institutions, that it was distinct from true mental illness and a tool of social control and power. His reading of Descartes' first meditation led Foucault to accuse Descartes of being able to doubt everything except his own sanity, thus excluding madness from hyperbolic doubt. In that same year, Foucault met Daniel Defoe, a philosophy student 10 years his junior. Defoe's political activism exercised a major influence on Foucault's development. About their relationship, Foucault said later in a 1981 interview, I have lived in for 18 years in a state of passion towards someone. At some moments, this passion has taken the form of love, but in truth, it is a matter of state of passion between the two of us. Foucault and Defoe were to have an intimate relationship for 25 years. For the next several years, he taught university courses in psychology while studying the works of Pavlov, Piaget, Jaspers, and Freud, and he studied relationships between doctors and patients at Hospital Saint Anne, where he had been a patient after his 1948 suicide attempt. During this time, Foucault also read widely outside of psychology into shared interests with his long-term partner Daniel Defoe. Following his first university post, he worked as a cultural diplomat at universities in Sweden and Poland while completing his doctoral thesis. Published in abridged form as his first book of note in 1964, Madness and Civilization, is considered a work of structuralism strongly influenced by his teacher at ENS École Normale Supérieure, Louis Althusser. After several years as a cultural diplomat abroad, he returned to France and published his first major book, The History of Madness, in 1961. After obtaining work between 1960 and 1966 at the University of Clermont-Ferrand, he produced The Birth of the Clinic in 1963 and The Order of Things in 1966, publications which displayed his increasing involvement with structuralism, from which he later distanced himself. These first three histories exemplified a historiographical technique Foucault was developing called archaeology. Now we should know the archaeology. What is archaeology? In 1970, Foucault was admitted to the Collège de France, a membership he retained until his death in 1975, while in Spain to protest the impending executions of two members of ETA, the Basque separatist movement, by the government of François Franco, Foucault confronted police officers who had come to seize the protest leaflets he had prepared. He also publicly attacked Jean-Paul Sartre at a time when Sartre was still the demigod of Parisian intellectuals. In 1978, Foucault toured Iran to support the new revolutionary Islamic government. Foucault died in Paris of HIV/AIDS. He became the first public figure in France to die from the disease on 26 June 1984. His partner, Daniel Defoe, founded the AIDS charity in his memory. Now we should know the notable works or books written by Michel Foucault. The first one is Mental Illness and Psychology, published in 1954. Next, Madness and Civilization, published in 1961. Next, The Birth of the Clinic, an Archaeology of Medical Perception, published in 1963. Next, Death and the Labyrinth, published in 1963. The Order of Things, 1966. This is Not a Pipe, published in 1968. The Archaeology of Knowledge, 1969. Discipline and Punish, 1975. The History of Sexuality, 1976 to 2018. Now we should know some of his essays, lectures, dialogues, and anthologies. First one is Introduction to Conscious Anthropology, published in 1964. Next, What is an Author, 1969. Foucault's Lectures at Collège de France. Next published, I, Fear a Revue, Having Slaughtered by Mother, My Sister and My Brother, published in 1973. Next, Language, Counter-Memory, Practice, 1977. Sexual Morality and the Law, 1978. Herculean Barba in 1978. Power Knowledge, published in 1980. Remarks on Marx, 1980. Les Desordres des Familles, 1982. The Foucault Reader, it was published in 1984. Politics, Philosophy, Culture, 1988. Foucault Life, 1996. The Politics of Truth, 1997. Society Must Be Defended, 1997. Ethics, Subjectivity and Truth, Essential Work, Volume 1, published in 1997. Next, Aesthetics, Method, Epistemology, Essential Work, Volume 2, published in 1998. Next, Abnormal, it was published in 1999. Power, Volume 3, 2000. Fearless Speech, 2001. The Hermeneutics of the Subject, 2001. The Essential Foucault, 2003. Psychiatric Power, 2003. Security, Territory, Population, 2004. The Birth of Biopolitics, 2004. The Government of Self and Others, 2008. The Courage of Truth, 2009. Lectures on the Will to Know, 2011. On the Government of the Living, 2012. Subjectivity and Truth, 2012. Wrongdoing, Truth-Telling, 2013. On the Punitive Society, 2015. Friends, this is the introductory video. We may call it the first video of the series. In the next video, that is in the second video, we will learn or start to learn various concepts given by Foucault. Thank you very much.